The movie starts in an empty house where an unknown presence is already living. We see the house from this entity's point of view as it floats through the air, drifting around and giving us a full tour of the house before hiding inside a closet. The next morning, a family comes to visit the house. Rebecca, a woman visiting with her family, immediately likes the house even though it's over her budget. She decides to buy it because it's very close to her son Tyler's school. Tyler is a professional swimmer, and Rebecca wants him to play at the national level, so she doesn't want anything to get in the way of his training. Rebecca is overly focused on Tyler, which makes her neglect her daughter Chloe. Chloe has been dealing with mental trauma for the past 2 months after her best friend Nadia died in a tragic accident. Chloe's dad, Chris, is the only one really concerned about her. He tells Rebecca that Chloe isn't ready for this big change, but Rebecca ignores him because she's more focused on Tyler's future. Meanwhile, Chloe starts exploring the house on her own. The mysterious presence that's been observing the family and listening to their conversations begins to follow Chloe. Chloe approaches an old mirror that's about 100 years old, something the realtor had mentioned earlier. After that, Chloe goes upstairs to check out her room. While standing near the window, she gets the eerie feeling that someone is watching her. The scene cuts to show that painting work has started in the house. However, many of the workers have already left because they feel like there's a strange presence in the house. A few days later, we see that Rebecca's family has officially moved into the house. Rebecca's on the phone, and we learn that she's under investigation for financial fraud at her workplace. She had done it because she needed more money, but she feels no guilt about it. In fact, she justifies it by saying there's nothing wrong with doing whatever it takes to provide for her loved ones. Later, Chloe is shown crying while remembering her friend Nadia. She eventually falls asleep while crying, but soon after she senses a presence in the room. She gets up and starts moving toward it, believing it might be the spirit of her friend Nadia. Chloe asks, "Nadia, is that you?" But the spirit doesn't respond or try to interact with her. It simply retreats into the closet. Chloe decides to ignore it and goes back to sleep. The next day, Chloe is shown sitting on her bed with her books spread out while studying. She then gets up and goes to take a shower. While she's gone, the spirit enters her room, looks at a picture of Chloe and her friend Nadia, and notices the scattered books on the bed. The spirit neatly gathers the books, floats them through the air, and places them on the table. When Chloe returns from the bathroom and sees everything arranged so perfectly, she screams in shock. Her dad, Chris, hears her and rushes into the room asking, "What happened?" Chloe lies and says she saw a mouse. Chris offers to check, but Chloe says, "No, Dad, it's fine. Maybe it was just my imagination." Chloe strongly feels a strange presence in her room, but she chooses not to tell anyone about it yet. Later, Chris talks to Rebecca downstairs about Chloe's condition. During their conversation, it's revealed that Nadia died from a drug overdose in her bedroom, and that a similar incident happened to another girl in the same town. Chris expresses concern, saying they need to keep an eye on Chloe, but Rebecca doesn't seem to care. She tells Chris that he's overthinking it. Just then, their son Tyler comes home with his friend Ryan. Tyler introduces Ryan to his family and to Chloe. Ryan immediately seems to like Chloe, but Tyler warns him not to get close to his sister. At night, Rebecca and Chris are talking about Chloe again. Chris tells Rebecca that he visited a therapist that day, but Rebecca dismisses the idea, saying that Chloe doesn't need a therapist. She just needs time and will heal on her own. This irritates Chris, and he snaps, saying, "Tyler isn't your only child. Don't forget you have 2 kids." He storms off, and Rebecca, clearly annoyed, responds, "I remember very well. I gave birth to both of them." The next day, Chloe and Ryan have become close friends. After college, Chloe brings Ryan home. Neither her parents nor Tyler are home. Chloe offers Ryan a drink, but he declines. Then she says, "Let me show you my room." In Chloe's room, they both take some drugs. Chloe starts opening up about how lonely she's felt since her friend Nadia died. Ryan listens closely and admits that he's never experienced the death of someone close to him. He asks curiously, "What does it feel like when someone dies?" Chloe, desperate to share her pain with someone, starts talking about her grief. As they continue sharing their emotions, they grow closer. Ryan reveals that no one in his family really cares about him, not even his mom, who he describes as toxic. Just as they're about to get even closer, the spirit in the house gets disturbed. Suddenly, a shelf inside the closet breaks, making a loud noise that scares them both. Ryan thinks it's just a loose screw or something, but Chloe knows it's the spirit, probably Nadia. When Chloe approaches the closet, she feels a sudden gust of cold air on her face, which startles her. When Ryan asks what happened, Chloe just smiles nervously and says, "It was just the wind." Ryan laughs it off as a joke, but this time Chloe decides not to stay quiet. She asks her family if they've noticed anything something strange in the house, like an eerie presence, as if someone else is there even though they can't see it. But everyone dismisses her concerns. Chloe insists, saying, "I've felt it. I've even seen things move on their own." Tyler, however, starts thinking Chloe is losing her mind. He tells her, "Your friend's death has really messed with your head. You sound crazy." Chloe starts crying after hearing this. Chris scolds Tyler for being insensitive. Tyler storms off angrily, followed by Rebecca. Later, at Chris's suggestion, Tyler goes to apologize to Chloe, but she's still upset and tells him to get out of her room. Tyler complains to Chris about it, but Chris explains that Chloe is still grieving and that Tyler should try to be more understanding. But Tyler doesn't seem to care much. The situation escalates when Tyler shamelessly brags to his mom about how his friends pulled a prank on a girl from their school by leaking her private photos. Tyler himself was actually behind the plan, but he refuses to admit it. The spirit, overhearing everything, becomes furious at Tyler's behavior. That night, the spirit enters Tyler's room, where all his trophies are displayed, along with a poster of Michael Phelps, the greatest swimmer of all time. The spirit tears the poster and knocks all the trophies to the floor, causing intense paranormal activity to break out in the room. Witnessing this chaos, Chloe immediately says, "This is Nadia." Everyone panics and rushes out of the house. Now even the rest of the family starts believing that the house is actually haunted. However, the spirit couldn't leave the house. It was trapped inside, silently observing and listening to everyone. Outside, the family is visibly shaken. Rebecca nervously asks, "How are we supposed to go back in there with such a dangerous spirit inside?" But Chloe insists, "It's my friend Nadia. She doesn't want to hurt anyone. I think she's trying to help us." Rebecca and Tyler doubt Chloe, asking, "How can you be so sure?" Chloe replies confidently, "Because I can feel her." While Rebecca and Tyler remain skeptical, Chris chooses to believe Chloe. He supports her and, after convincing the others, leads everyone back into the house. Once they return, Rebecca's husband contacts the woman who sold them the house. He asks why they weren't warned about the entity in the house. The woman claims that no entity was known to exist before, but she adds, "If you really believe there's a spirit in the house, I can send my sister-in-law. She's a psychic and specializes in helping people with these kinds of issues." Rebecca's husband agrees to bring the psychic over. The next afternoon, the psychic arrives at the house. As soon as the psychic enters the house, she feels a sudden rush of cold air on her face, immediately sensing that the house is indeed haunted and that a spirit is present. After carefully observing the surroundings, she tells everyone, "There's definitely a spirit here. It's suffering, much like Chloe is suffering after her friend's death." This shocks everyone because no one had told the psychic about Chloe's emotional state. The psychic explains that Chloe is the only one who can sense the spirit because Chloe's trauma has made her extremely sensitive. This sensitivity has opened a connection to the fourth dimension, allowing spirits and energies from other worlds to reach her and communicate with her, something normal people can't perceive. The psychic adds that she herself experienced similar trauma, which opened the fourth dimension for her too. Unlike Chloe, she has learned to control this connection and keep it open, which is why she can help others deal with spirits. Chloe then asks the psychic, "Is it my friend Nadia?" The psychic responds, "I don't know who it is, and even the spirit itself doesn't seem to know. It's trapped in the wrong dimension in the wrong timeline, unable to find a way out." She explains that in the fourth dimension, time behaves strangely. Past and present events can overlap, causing spirits to get lost and confused between different timelines. The psychic notices the old mirror in the house, the one that's over 100 years old, and touches it. She explains, "Old mirrors often act as a gateway for spirits to connect with our world." As she touches the mirror and tries to communicate with the spirit urgently whispers, "Help her!" Suddenly, the psychic is hit with a jolt of energy and nearly collapses. After drinking some water and regaining her strength, she decides to leave the house. As the psychic is about to leave, Chris secretly gives her husband some money. When Rebecca finds out, she becomes furious. "She's a fraud!" Rebecca shouts, "and I'm not letting her back into this house ever again." After several days, things seem to calm down in the house. The presence that had been haunting the family suddenly stops interfering. Even when Chloe starts getting close to Ryan, the entity doesn't intervene. Instead, when Chloe and Ryan are alone in the room, the entity quietly hides inside the closet, almost as if it's choosing not to see what's happening. One day, while Chloe is in the shower, the entity notices Ryan secretly mixing something into Chloe's juice, a drug. To protect Chloe, the entity starts shaking the table violently until the glass falls and the juice spills. Chloe doesn't find this strange. She assumes it was just an accident and calmly cleans up the mess. At this point, Chloe's emotional state has significantly improved, largely due to her growing connection with Ryan. Since Chloe's mental health is getting better, her sensitivity to the fourth dimension starts fading. This means she can no longer sense the presence of the entity or feel its attempts to communicate with her. Later, Chloe and Ryan are talking, and Chloe mentions, "Mom and Dad won't be home on Friday. You should come over." Ryan agrees, even even though they both know Tyler will be home that night. That same day, the psychic visits Chris, Rebecca's husband, again. She tells him something shocking. The entity haunting your house isn't connected to the past. It's tied to the future. It's trying to prevent something terrible from happening, and it's linked to the window. Chris is confused and struggles to understand what she means. But since Rebecca had already banned the psychic from the house, Chris hesitates and eventually asks her to leave. That night, the entity appears increasingly desperate. It seems frantic, as if it urgently needs to warn Chloe about something. The entity tries to reach out to Chloe in her sleep, attempting to touch her shoulder to wake her up. But an invisible barrier stops it. Because Chloe's mental trauma is fading, her sensitivity to the spirit world is closing off. As a result, the entity can no longer communicate with her or make its presence known. Finally, Friday arrives and Ryan shows up at Tyler and Chloe's house. He first greets Tyler before heading straight to the kitchen. There, he pours 2 glasses of juice and mixes drugs into both of them. He hands 1 glass to Tyler, who drinks it and quickly passes out within minutes. Afterward, Ryan takes the second glass and heads toward Chloe's room. As Ryan enters the room, Chloe immediately senses something is wrong. Nervously, she asks, "Where's Tyler?" Ryan calmly replies, "Don't worry, he's sleeping." Chloe's expression changes as she realizes Ryan must have drugged Tyler. Feeling uneasy, she tells Ryan to leave the room because she's not in the mood to spend time with him. Ryan tries to calm her down and offers her the drug juice. Meanwhile, the entity watches everything unfold. It desperately wants to stop Chloe from drinking the juice, but since it can no longer touch Chloe or influence physical objects, it's powerless. Helplessly, the entity watches as Chloe drinks the juice. Within moments, Chloe becomes drowsy and loses consciousness. At that point, Ryan's true nature is revealed. He is not the kind, understanding person he pretended to be. He's a sadistic predator who enjoys torturing and killing girls. Ryan takes out a piece of cling wrap and places it over Chloe's face, slowly suffocating her. Each time Chloe's breathing weakens, Ryan briefly removes the wrap, prolonging her suffering because he enjoys watching his victim struggle. As Chloe lies there helpless, Ryan chillingly confesses the truth. He killed Nadia and the other girl in the same way. He admits he's a serial killer who thrives on the pain and fear of his victims. The realization that Ryan has been hiding his monstrous nature all along makes the scene even more horrifying. Ryan was suffocating Chloe with the cling wrap, trying to make it look like a drug overdose so that no one would suspect murder. The entity, now desperate to save Chloe, tries to shake her awake, but the invisible barrier prevents any physical contact. Realizing Chloe is in grave danger, the entity shifts its focus to Tyler, who is passed out downstairs. But the barrier stops the entity from touching Tyler too. Frustrated, the entity begins banging against the barrier and unleashing a burst of paranormal activity around the room. When that doesn't work, it screams directly into Tyler's ear. Startled, Tyler wakes up, panicking as he recalls that Ryan had been at their house earlier. Realizing Chloe might be in danger, Tyler rushes upstairs. He bursts into the room and sees Ryan trying to kill Chloe. Without hesitation, Tyler charges at Ryan, tackling him through the window. They both plummet from the second floor, hitting the ground with a deadly impact, killing them both instantly. In the next scene, the grieving family is shown packing up and leaving the house. The loss of Tyler is devastating for Rebecca, who had bought the house for him because she loved him deeply. Tyler's death shatters her emotionally. However, in her fragile mental state, Rebecca's connection to the spiritual world strengthens. For the first time, she senses the entity's presence. Drawn toward the 100-year-old mirror, Rebecca sees the entity's true form. It's Tyler's spirit. It becomes clear that Tyler's soul had traveled back from the future to save Chloe. Overwhelmed by the realization, Rebecca breaks down, crying and calling out Tyler's name. She tells her husband and Chloe, "It was Tyler. He came back to save you." As the family mourns, Tyler's spirit is shown walking away from the house toward a bright light. His purpose fulfilled, he is finally at peace. The movie ends with Tyler's soul ascending toward the sky, fading into the light, signaling that his mission is complete and he's finally free.